Hello everyone and welcome to this OpenUp Masterclass. We are delighted to have you here. My name is Selina and I work at OpenUp. And at OpenUp we have a mission to make care for mental well-being accessible to everyone. One of the ways in which we do that is by organizing monthly masterclasses. And this month we're focusing on relationships, something we can all relate to in every phase of our life. We are really happy that our speaker this month is Professor Dr. Esther Kluwer. Esther is a professor of sustainable relationships and well-being at the Radboud University, as well as being affiliated to the psychology department of the University of Utrecht. Before I hand the word over to Esther, I would like to share some practicalities with you. This is a live interactive event. I see that a whole load of you have already found the chat, which is great. Please carry on using it. You can also react with emojis down below. And after Esther has given her masterclass, there will be time for Q&A, and we would like to answer your questions. So please submit your questions bottom right, where you see the questions next to the chat. And there you can also see questions from other people and vote for them. The more votes, the higher the chance that Esther will be able to answer the question. That's it from me. Now all that is left for me to do is to hand it over to Esther and to wish you all a great masterclass. Enjoy.
What is the secret of a good relationship? This is a question that I often get. It's a pressing issue for many, and you are all here to listen to some answers, hopefully. It's such a pressing issue for many that there's a real market for it. If you search for books on the internet on relationships, you get thousands of hits. And think of all the dating websites, the fora and other websites on relationships. And love is the most important theme in the arts. And rightfully so, because the most profound events, the most impactful events in our lives have to do with relationships. Think of falling in love, moving in with each other, getting married, having children, or maybe having a fight and a conflict with others, or being rejected, divorcing, losing a partner. Those events have to do with relationships and are all very impactful in our lives. Not only very impactful, but relationships are also very complex because each relationship is a unique blend of two unique individuals with a unique interaction in a unique context. So it is not so easy to answer the question of what the secret is of a good relationship. And I'm going to tell you right away, there is no protocol. There is no one set of rules that will guarantee that you are happy with your partner for the rest of your life. And by the way, who is still happily married these days? I mean, in the Netherlands, 40% of the people that marry also break up, they divorce. And the UK has similar numbers. The number of singles living in the Netherlands and worldwide is larger than ever, and the number of divorces has increased tenfold over the past decades. So, is a healthy and long-lasting relationship not unfeasible or maybe vastly outdated? Well, let's find out in this masterclass, and I'm going to talk to you about two questions. Good relationships, why should we care? So why is it important? And then the second question, if we care, what does it take to have a good relationship? Now, before we get into this, take a moment here to think about the most important relationship in your life. Maybe your partner, your best friend, maybe a very close relative. Think of this person as I'm talking in this masterclass. And although I'm focusing on partner relationships, we will be talking about other types of relationships, work relationships as well. Okay, good relationships, why should we care? Aren't relationships outdated? Well, actually no, because marriage and cohabitation is still the most common form of living in the Netherlands and also worldwide. In the Netherlands, 60% of people over 20 live together with a partner. And of the 3 million people that live alone in the Netherlands, 25% is in a relationship. 8,000 couples get married or move in together with each other each year. And when things go wrong in the relationship and people break up, 1/3 lives with a new partner within a year. So many people have a relationship, and if they don't have a relationship, many people are looking for one. And when things go wrong, many people start looking for a new partner quite soon. And this is not so surprising, because we need not only food and shelter and safety, but also stable relationship with close others in which we feel accepted and loved, in which we can be ourselves. This is a fundamental need that we call the need to belong. And it's a basic driver of human social behavior. Because we live and we survive in groups as human beings, we need other people. And fulfilling these social needs has strong effects on our well-being and our physical health. Here are some of those effects. People with good social relationships have a higher life expectancy. And what do I mean with good social relationships? Then think of having enough social support, having a good social network, being socially integrated. And this effect on life expectancy is actually quite large. Think of common causes of death. For example, smoking and its relation to life expectancy, or maybe excessive drinking, eating unhealthy, not exercising enough. When we think of good social relationship, the effect on life expectancy is as large as the effect of smoking on life expectancy. Now, we all know, what is healthy and unhealthy, but this is quite a large effect if you think of it. And if you are in a romantic relationship, the quality of that relationship is affecting your health and your well-being. So we see that the quality of the relationship quality of the intimate partner relationship is associated with feeling better, but also actual physical health. And finally, if we experience social exclusion or rejection, this activates the same neural networks as physical pain. So social pain is actually analogous in its neurocognitive function to physical pain. It alerts us when we have sustained an injury to our social connections. So this is how important social relationships are. I'm going to illustrate this with a study that they did among middle-aged heart patients who were followed for 4 years. And they measured the relationship quality of these patients at the beginning of the study. And here in the green line, you see that after 4 years, 75% of the patients that had a high relationship quality at the beginning of the study was still alive. Well, that's quite nice, but look at the people, what happened to the people who had a low relationship quality. More than half of these patients had died after 4 years. Having a low relationship quality is stressful. If you fight a lot with your partner, this is quite stressful, and we all know that stress is not good for your heart, especially for heart patients. And also in a good relationship, partners support each other in following a healthy lifestyle. Really important also when you have a medical condition. Let's look at it some more, because the impact of close relationships, we also see that in what happens when you divorce, for example. When you've lived together for a long time, perhaps you have children together, when people divorce and lose their attachment partner, this brings on an emotional roller coaster. Loss and grief, guilt and shame, often anger and resentment. And it impacts not only the ex-partners, but also children, and as we will see in the next slide, also employers. Divorced people are on average less happy, have more feelings of depression and more health problems, and even a higher mortality rate than non-divorced people. There is also some good news, and that is why I chose for this picture on this slide, because although divorce is a really impactful event, really a major life event, people are also very resilient. So in a few years, most divorced people actually recover well, and they might find new opportunities, new relationships. So there are also quite some positive changes, I have to say. But it does have quite an impact. So here I show you another study on the Norwegian working population. And here they compared the sickness absence rates of people that were divorced compared to those who were continuously married in the study, from the years before the divorce till after the divorce. And what you see here, that is a sickness absence difference between divorced versus non-divorced, is at the peak, so around the divorce itself, about 9% higher, which is actually quite a large number. After the divorce, you see that people recover, but there's still more sickness absence than before. And for women, you even see a further increase, which is explained by the fact that most women take care of the children after divorce most of the time. This was also studied in the Netherlands, where research agency TNO used data of the Dutch Central Bureau of Statistics on sickness absence among employees, divorced versus non-divorced, and they found a difference of 45%, which counts to 5 days per year. And the total estimated costs for employers mounted up to 164 million euros on an annual basis. So this is quite a large impact. Now finally, good relationships between parents are good for children. Children develop better when their home situation is safe and pleasant, when the needs are addressed and when there are clear boundaries. And parents are better able, when they do this, in a harmonious relationship. Conflict between parents is very stressful for children, whether their parents are together or divorced. And also parental well-being, which is of course affected by the quality of the relationship, affects parenting. So parents are better parents when they feel well and when they are in a good relationship with each other. So, in sum, we need relationship with others. It is in our DNA, and good relationships are good for health, for well-being, and for our children. So are singles then doomed to be less healthy and happy, you might wonder? Well, no, of course not, because our need for social connection can be met by other social relationships as well. But the social network is really important. In that sense, good relationships in your social network are also really important. So the next question that we'll get into is, how do we get that done? How do we have and keep a good relationship? Well, in this day and age, relationships are more complex than ever. It used to be a lot simpler in the good old days. So here in 1930, they actually had some rules and prescriptions for husbands and wives. For the man, for example, the prescriptions read, do you ever court your wife? Do you bring her flowers? Do you think of her birthday? Really important. Are you careful not to criticize her in the presence of others? And in addition to household money, do you sometimes give her some money that she can spend as she pleases? And do you do your best to understand her feminine whims and help her overcome times of fatigue, nervousness, and irritability? And there was also a nice prescription for the men. Do you remind yourself to not constantly compare her cooking and housekeeping with your mother's? Now, for the woman, there were other rules. Do you give your husband complete freedom in arranging his affairs? Do you refrain from criticizing the people he interacts with and the choice of his secretary? And do you do your best to make your home as pleasant as possible and provide variety in the menu so that he can never guess in advance what he's going to eat? And do you have enough insight in his affairs to be able to talk to him sensibly and in a way that benefits him? And can you bear financial adversity cheerfully without reproaching your husband for faults and comparing him to his disadvantage with others who have succeeded better? Well, those are all very clear rules, but of course you all know that in these days we place other demands, very high demands on relationships, providing the income or running the household is not enough anymore. We need romance, we need respect, we need humor and trust. Your partner has to be your sparring partner, your best friend, and also passionate lover. And we need to feel completely understood and at the same time be given all of the space in the world to develop. So how do we get that done in this day and age? Now, before we get into the science of this, let me ask you to think of what do you think are the most important ingredients of a good relationship, and put some suggestions in the chat. What is really key to having a good relationship? I'm waiting for some answers. People are typing. Humor, good communication, trust, a lot of communication, loyalty, sense of humor, nice answers, good communication, fun. Well, these are all really, patience, also interesting. These are all really good answers. Let's look at what science says about this. What is really the essence of relationships? Well, first we asked a couple of years ago in the popular science magazine Quest, they asked me to do a study among a representative sample of over 1,000 Dutch people in a relationship. And when we asked them what are the most important ingredients of a good relationship, then in the top 5 we found trust, intimacy, feeling connected, good communication, so I've seen that a lot here as well, love and respecting each other. Interestingly, good sex ended up on the 10th place, so at least Dutch people did not find it so important that it ended up in the top 5. Now, we also did this a bit more thoroughly in a large study, an international team of 86 scientists, where we collected 43 data sets among more than 11,000 couples worldwide. And they were followed over time, and we looked at the main predictors of relationship quality. What predicts a good relationship? So we might be complaining about his socks lying around or her morning crankiness, but it is all about intimacy, about feeling that your partner is committed, about feeling appreciation for your partner, love, and here sexual satisfaction ended up in the 5th place. And interestingly, also a nice detail is that sexual frequency rated 17 on this list. So, and we find that in a lot of other research, sexual satisfaction is a much better predictor of relationship quality than sexual frequency. So it's not so much how often you do it, but if you do it right. Okay, so what we find in these studies is that really relatedness, feeling close, feeling intimacy and connection is the most important ingredient of our partner relationships. Our strong innate tendency to attach to others is shown already when babies are born and have very early interactions between the infant and caregivers. This is really the foundation, so attachment between children and their caregivers is really the foundation of development, of developing relationships, but also of developing our socio-emotional and cognitive skills. Now, appropriate caregiver responses is responding immediately or when the infant signals that he or she needs something, and when caregivers do not respond to their infant signals, the infant responds immediately with protest. Now I'm going to show you a little movie clip that is on a study done a long time ago in the 70s, which is called the still face paradigm. You might know it, but you see what happens when the mother in this case becomes unresponsive to the child. And bear with me, it's all well in the end.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby, who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this. And then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, "Come on, why aren't we doing this?" Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh, what a big girl.
It's a little like the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good is that normal stuff that goes on, that we all do with our kids. The bad is when something bad happens, but the infant can overcome it. After all, when you stop the still face, the mother and the baby start to play again. The ugly is when you don't give the child any chance to get back to the good. There's no reparation, and they're stuck in that really ugly.
Now, you've all watched this video, and it's quite disturbing when you've never seen it before, but fortunately all comes well in the end. What is so interesting is to see what happens in the interaction between mother and child, and how the child responds to when the mother is going out of connection, out of responding to the baby. Interestingly, only a couple of weeks ago, I saw an article where they replicated this study, but then not by the still face, but with a mother watching on her smartphone instead of responding to the baby. And they found the exact same effects. So even though we think this is an old video, of course we all know that we do that a lot. We go out of connection on our phones. It is really what I show here has to do with our innate motivational attachment system. We have this system when we get born, and it's really important for survival because it ensures that we maintain proximity to others. First the parents, for safety, food, and care, but later on we have this attachment system that works with peers and then also partners to facilitate our feelings of safety and felt security. And secure attachment in the early years develops when the parent responds adequately to the child's needs. The parent basically as a safe haven. When the child needs affection, it runs to the parent and the parent responds. And secure attachment is the most important need also in close adult relationships. And also the most important predictor in all these studies of relationship quality and stability. But as we saw in the previous slide, we also have a strong need to explore the world, to develop our own identity, to learn and to make choices by ourselves and to find our own way. So the parent as a secure base from which the child begins to explore the world and differentiates within the family. So apart from relatedness, we also have a strong need for autonomy. And by autonomy, I mean that our actions are volitional, that they are freely chosen and autonomous rather than feeling coerced or pressured by others. Now, you might have heard of self-determination theory that is really has autonomy as a core. Autonomous self-determination is really important in our motivation and well-being, also in relationships. So we need to make choices in life based on our own needs and values. We need to be authentic also in our relationship. What I do not mean by autonomy is independence or maybe egoism or just doing your own thing without accounting to others. Let's see how we manage relatedness and autonomy needs in relationships. Because when we connect to others, we gain a lot. We gain pleasure, we gain comfort, safety, challenge, sexual satisfaction, but we sometimes lose some of our individuality. And when people are in love, they want to be one with the other. You feel euphoric under the influence of dopamine, and you go out of your way to please the other. And you want to be with him or her for, all the time. And sometimes we do things that, ignore our own wants and needs because we want to please the other. And this is fine. In developing relationship, this is necessary to deepen the connection. But later on, the need for connection and autonomy can become pressured. For example, we have to compromise, we have to sacrifice, we have to deal with bad habits of our partner and annoyances. And what you find is when there is too little connection, people can become detached. They might withdraw, or they might be unreachable for their partner. People in relationships can live alongside each other. Maybe they're running the family and they're running their jobs, but they don't really connect anymore. And they might lose themselves in work or maybe a secret affair. When there's too little autonomy, people become suffocated. One or both partners might completely surrender to the other with individuality disappearing. Or partners might be totally preoccupied with what the other wants, or maybe what other family members want. And they lose control or maybe even sight of or connection with their own needs and wishes. Really, what we want in relationship is strong connections as well as strong autonomy, which is essential for relationship functioning. So, to experience intimacy and support without compromising your own wishes and needs. To develop and preserve your individuality in the presence of the partner, in the relationship. Now, we did some research to test this interaction between relatedness and autonomy needs in studies among large groups of couples. And we indeed found that the individuals that reported strong relatedness but also high autonomy actually functioned better in their relationships. For example, it helps to deal with conflict in more constructive ways. Feeling strong connection with your partner motivates you to solve the conflict, but feeling autonomy helps you to actually do it. For example, what I mean with autonomy is that your self-concept is not too connected or interrelated to your partner. So when your partner maybe is, giving you a cold shoulder, or maybe saying, you're always late for dinner and I'm so irritated by that, you never put the dishes in the dishwasher, most people are generally intend to defend or counterattack or maybe become silent. Because the accusation sounds as something, oh, I did something wrong. But more autonomous partners are better able to see, oh, the other partner needs help or is stressed or feels neglected. So they're not so much responding to the emotion, but better able to see what's really underneath. People that score high on relatedness and autonomy are also more accepting of their partner's characteristics, also the less positive ones, because they see those characteristics as separate from themselves, so they can more easily accept them. They don't reflect on who they are. And they were actually also reported more sexual satisfaction. Partners tend to be more attractive when there is a little bit more distance, when they stand firmly on their own 2 feet in the relationship. We generally don't get aroused when there's too much dependence or when there's too little connection. You might know the book of Esther Perel, Mating in Captivity, and this is basically also what she describes, that we seek security and closeness and we want the other completely, but we need a little bit space between partners for eroticism and sexual arousal to thrive. And she says we cannot desire something that we already have. So looking at your partner from a little bit different distance as autonomous being, and the other becomes much more attractive. Now finally, for those of you who know self-determination theory, feeling competent is also important. Maybe even more salient in work relationships, but we need to feel that we can adequately and effectively respond to the demands of our environment. In work, in hobby, in communication, at home, etc. And yes, this theory has also been tested and applied to work organizations a lot. Organizations may support or thwart your psychological needs for relatedness, autonomy and competence. And when we feel more satisfaction of or fulfillment of these needs, we become more motivated. We especially become more intrinsically motivated, and it helps us to feel well at work and to perform better at work. And what work can do, or work organizations can do, is, for example, offering choice in work so you feel autonomous, or supporting a collaborative atmosphere between colleagues, encouraging relationships, or encourage initiatives so people feel more competent. So good relationships are not only essential at home, but also at work. Now, we come to an end, but when we talk about autonomy in relatedness, how do we do that? How do we stay connected to our partners and also preserve our autonomy, our individuality, or our authenticity? How do we stand on our own 2 feet in the relationship? Now take a moment to think of that important relationship that I asked you in the beginning. How would you do that in the relationship with this person? Just take a moment to think about it. Now, as I said in this talk, relatedness is really important. It is the basis of most relationships. And what is needed for that is to let yourself be known by others, showing what is on your mind, what you really think and feel, dare to be vulnerable, and not just a pretty picture on the outside, but also what's going inside, maybe things that you're scared about or that you're ashamed of. Self-disclosure is crucial to develop and deepen relationships. If you don't disclose to the other, they don't get to know you. They cannot know you for what you want and need. And then also important is to have genuine attention and interest from the other person. Be responsive when other people tell you stuff. The second is that for autonomy, knowing yourself is also very important. Knowing what you want and need in life and in relationship, and communicating this in a constructive way to your partner. We're usually quite good in saying what the other partner should do or what the other partner does wrong, for example, in a conflict. But we're far worse at saying what we really need. But this is really the essence of communicating. So autonomy, take responsibility not only for your wants and needs, but also for your own emotions. Try to regulate your own emotions, not the emotions of your partner. When connection is secure, we feel more space also to be ourselves and give our partners also the space that they need. Okay, and finally, for competence, it's important to validate each other. Give each other a compliment, show your admiration and respect. There's always something positive in something that the other person does, and it is so important to feel that you are competent in the things you do. And finally, as an example, I talked about conflict at some points, and I always say a conflict about the dishes is not about the dishes. Conflicts are about topics, but usually underneath it, it is usually about losing connection or about too little autonomy. So try to find out what basic needs are thwarted when you're in a conflict with each other. So if your partner says you never do the dishes in the dishwasher, you can fight about whether you do or you don't, but you can also help. What's going on? Do you feel neglected, that I don't listen to you? Or do you feel stressed? Do you need help? So that is a better way of solving the problem. Okay, so what I told you in this masterclass is that relationships matter because relationship quality affects our health and well-being and functioning in other important life domains such as work. So we should really care about personally and professionally about the quality of our relationships. And I like to end my presentation with some quotes of Alain de Botton. It is from his book, The Course of Love. And he says, once you were deemed ready for marriage when you'd reached certain financial and social milestones, when you had a home of your own, a closet full of linen, a set of qualifications, or a few cows and a parcel of land. Then, under the influence of romantic ideology, such practicalities became too calculating and the focus shifted to emotional qualities. It became important to have the right feelings, a sense of having a soulmate, being perfectly understood, and the certainty of never wanting to sleep with anyone else again. Now, according to de Botton, these romantic ideas are a recipe for disaster in relationships. He says, the partner truly best suited to us is not the one who miraculously happens to share every taste, but the one who can negotiate differences in taste with intelligence and grace. And that, in a nutshell, is perhaps the essence of a good relationship. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Esther, for your insights into relationships. I think a never-ending fascinating topic for everybody, wherever you are in life. So thank you. You managed our expectations very well at the beginning. There is no rule book. You did give us a great framework to think about the delicate dance, I think I would call it, between autonomy and relatedness. It's something that I think I'm reflecting on right now in my own relationship. And within that framework, of course, of relatedness and autonomy, our relationships these days have been put under a lot more pressure, as you mentioned, due to societal changes. Do you maybe have any tips for how we could take that pressure off our relationships a little bit?
Well, it's a good question. Important one too is, yes, we expect a lot from our partner. A lot is focused on that one person that needs to be perfect. And we're not perfect. So we're never perfect partners. So lower your expectations. And it's okay that you cannot find everything within that one person. So that is why, besides a close relationship, if you have one, we also need friends and we need work and other things to do, because they can also fulfill our basic needs. So I think having high expectations is and lowering them is a way to solve that problem.
Exactly. A little bit so Alain de Botton was saying as well, those high expectations we have.
True.
Yeah, that's grounding.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over to the questions from our listeners. So the first one is from Sandra, and it's about, how do you think we can foster relationships in this digital age? How can we make use of technology in a positive way to connect and to build relationships?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Thank you. Well, I think in the digital age, we can use our connections are all over the place, and so it gives a lot of opportunities to connect. And interestingly, when we talk about self-disclosure, which is very important for development of relationships, that is sometimes much easier when you're not face-to-face. So actually, for starting a relationship, think of all the dating sites that use this. There's first you chat with each other, and then when you think, oh, I like him or her, then you start seeing each other. So I think it has a lot of opportunities. Of course, we all know that there are also boundaries and there are also negative facts. Talking about other people in negative ways, etc. But I think it can be very positive in informing relationships, yes.
Right, in helping us opening up and being
right,
a bit
right.
vulnerable, taking
finding
the first
people
steps.
that are that you can connect with.
Yeah, interesting. I think we talk a lot about the negative sides, but there are also some positive sides.
Definitely.
We have another question from Andre, that they often catch themselves wanting to fall in love again, to feel that emotion and that chemistry inside. And do you think that it can be reached with a partner with which you've already been married to for several years?
Ah, okay.
Sort of
yeah, so
reignite.
you're still with your partner, but you want to fall in love again?
That's how I read
well,
this, yes.
First of all, my tip would be to read Mating in Captivity from Esther Perel.
Okay.
So that is a good book tip.
Okay.
Because this is exactly what she's talking about. And I sort of try to allude to that in the idea of having a little bit more distance in the relationship, or, start doing something new with your partner that brings back the thrill, but being too closely connected all the time can be suffocating. So we need the space between partners for what she says, eroticism, sexual attraction, maybe a bit more tension, that can bring back these feelings of love. Or maybe do some things alone and then meeting each other again. So there are all kinds of ways that can bring back the spark. But it's interesting to read her book.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's a good tip. And an interesting bridge to the next question from Antonia, who is wondering if you have any... I'm sorry. I misread there. I thought there was a question about books. I misread it. Excuse me. But I will read Antonia's questions. If you have any tips on how to be vulnerable and genuine if you've grown in a mindset of fear, of betrayal and abandonment your entire life. So somebody who comes from a difficult start. Yeah,
that's a very good question. And of course, something that many people struggle with. And I would say that finding safe connections and let's say practicing in these safe connections with little steps to open up yourself and show your vulnerable side. And see if for example, a friendship that feels safe for you, you can take that next step, even though it might be a really tiny step, but to open up a little bit more than you're used to or that you're comfortable with. And maybe even say, hey, this is very uncomfortable for me, but I want to tell you something. And, please know that I'm, not very secure right now. Yeah.
Right. And so practicing not only in romantic relationships, but also that you can practice in all your different kinds at work or friends.
Yeah. But
siblings.
I guess feeling that the relationship with the other is safe, that you trust them with your information, that is really important basis for this.
Yeah, to base it on. Makes sense.
And the good news is people can learn. So also when you talk about insecure attachment, for example, in this question, people can also change to become more securely attached if they have good experiences in later in life.
Yeah. So we are resilient and
we are resilient
have the ability
and we can grow. Yeah.
It's positive. A question from John. Do any of these studies say anything about same-sex relationships? He is wondering if the studies shared would have the same conclusions. And because a lot of the examples were between male and female relationships.
Right, yeah, that's a very good question. And basically the answer is that these are such fundamental processes that it can be between men, women, non-binary persons. That's not really a difference. So in many studies we also include all of these genders and all of these types of relationships, and we find very little differences in the basic psychological processes.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of us need that combination of autonomy
Definitely.
as well as relatedness.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
It's not that, say, one gender might have more need for autonomy or relatedness than the other. That's not what we see.
Well, not really. People do differ in their need for connection, their need for autonomy. Right. So this might also be, for example, people who are more insecurely attached might have more need to be on their own, which is not necessarily autonomous. But there are differences. So it's really about to what extent your need is fulfilled. You function well or not well in a relationship.
Yeah. Exactly. And maybe the digital age can help us in this. With a question from Josephine. If there are any tips on how to sustain a healthy relationship in a long-distance relationship?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I don't have any studies on top of mind that are about this. There has been research on this, but I think it's more important to keep the connection going. So and in this day and age, we can see each other when we talk. FaceTime is excellent for that, because it's much more connecting than just writing each other. In the old days, we had to write each other letters. Stay connected, I would say, and make sure you see each other a lot, as if possible.
If possible, yeah. My grandmother always used to say, "Distance makes the heart grow fonder." Sometimes.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the case. Of course, as I said, taking a step back can be, sparking, give a spark again. But there's also the saying, out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Make sure you stay connected.
Stay connected.
Because you can become absorbed in your own life easily when you don't see each other. So regular contact is really important for any relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Then I have a last question, and then we're going to wrap up. And it's from Anna. How to express our needs and wishes and set healthy boundaries without our partner seeing us as being too demanding?
Good question. Very nice. I think it's about communicating what you want without saying we have to do this or you have to do this. You can say, I'd like to go on this trip together. What do you want? Or what is it like for you to hear this? Or, so address the other one. He or she might have different opinions. If people are autonomous within their relationship, they're able to have both sides and listen to both sides. So don't say we're going to do that because I want it, but saying, hey, this is what I want. How is that for you?
Right, exactly.
There's a difference.
Exactly, yeah. That's a subtle difference, but I think a very powerful one. So thank you very much, Esther, for your time today and all your insights. Thank you to all of you for joining us, for your questions and your interactions also in the chat. Know that we now also have a mobile app, and in the chats under rooms, you can join the room on relationships, where we'll be continuing the conversation with our OpenUp hosts. And as I said at the beginning, we organize these masterclasses every month, and next month it's on sleep. So head over to openup.com/spaces and sign up for our next masterclass. Thank you and have a good day.